Mark, I can't do this anymore. I want a divorce. Lisa's abrupt declaration cut through the quiet room, leaving Mark frozen for a moment. He wasn't entirely shocked. After all, the signs had been there. For months, Lisa had been unusually distant, and she seemed to hang on every word of her friend Rachel, who fancied herself an authority on marriage despite 3 personal failures. You're not saying anything, Mark. Did you hear me? I said I want a divorce. Lisa pressed, her voice rising with impatience. Mark locked eyes with her, his tone calm but edged with authority. Yes, Lisa, I heard you loud and clear. This is a serious matter, though, and I won't rush to respond without careful thought. For nearly 20 years, I've done my best to be a loving husband and a dependable father. If there were issues, you've kept them to yourself, especially regarding our personal life. So, tell me, is this something that's been festering for a while, or have you only recently decided that I'm no longer enough for you? Lisa hesitated, taken aback by the sharpness in his words. It's not about you being enough, Mark, she muttered. I just feel trapped. I need space, time to explore life outside of this marriage. Maybe meet new people, have new experiences. Mark's jaw tightened, but his expression remained controlled. So, in other words, you're bored, and you think walking away from everything we've built will somehow fix that. I hope you've considered the impact this will have on the kids, not to mention yourself. I know what I'm asking for, Lisa snapped defensively. This doesn't mean it's final. We'll have the 90-day separation period the court requires. Maybe that will give us both clarity. Who knows? I might even decide to stay married. Mark's patience thinned as he crossed his arms. Let me be very clear, Lisa. I won't spend those 90 days sitting around, hoping you change your mind. During that time, we'll both have the same freedoms, including dating other people. And once the papers are signed, I'm moving forward, whether or not you have second thoughts. Lisa blinked, startled by his bluntness. I didn't think you'd want to see other people. You've made it clear that you're seeking something or someone that I can't provide, Mark shot back. Why would I wait around like a fool? And just to make sure there's no imbalance of power in this process, I'll be filing my own paperwork. That way, neither of us holds all the cards. Fair enough. Lisa hesitated, the confidence in her voice faltering. I guess so, but does that mean you want a divorce too? No, Lisa. I didn't choose this, Mark replied, his voice hardening. But I'm not going to fight to keep someone who's already halfway out the door. You've made your priorities clear. Now, tell me, have you spoken to a lawyer yet? Lisa shifted uncomfortably. Not yet. I was planning to hire Michael Turner. He handled Rachel's divorces, and she said he's excellent. Mark chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. Of course Rachel recommended him. She's been meddling in our marriage for months, hasn't she? I'll be hiring Nina, my cousin. I know you think she's difficult, but she's a brilliant attorney who doesn't put up with nonsense. Lisa's face twisted in irritation. Nina, she's impossible, Mark. You know that. She's effective, Mark countered. And for your information, she offered to represent me for free. So while you're draining our savings on Michael Turner, I'll be preparing for this fight without spending a dime. Lisa exhaled sharply, clearly frustrated. Fine, what do you want me to do now? Mark leaned forward, his tone sharp. Here's what I expect. Take the next 2 weeks to get your affairs in order. On the 1st of the month, we'll begin the separation officially. That gives us time to figure out how this will impact the kids, and to make sure you're fully prepared for what life without me looks like. Lisa opened her mouth to argue, but closed it again, sensing his resolve. Fine, but why do we have to start planning everything now? Can't we just wait and see how things go during the separation? Because a separation without a plan is pointless, Mark replied firmly. The whole purpose is to experience what life after divorce might look like. If we don't approach it seriously, we'll just be dragging out the inevitable. Lisa frowned, but didn't respond. Mark stood and gestured toward the kitchen. Come on, let's start writing down everything we'll need to figure out. I'll make coffee. When Lisa entered the kitchen, Mark was already at the table, a notepad in hand and the scent of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. Let's begin with the kids, he said without preamble. We need to decide how we'll explain this to them. Lisa shifted uneasily. Do we really have to tell them right away? Maybe we should wait out the 90 days first. They'll know something's wrong, Lisa, Mark said, his voice firm. If we don't tell them, they'll start guessing, and the last thing we need is for them to think this is their fault. Despite her reluctance, Lisa nodded. They spent the next hour discussing how to handle the logistics of their separation, from explaining the situation to their daughters to setting boundaries for their new arrangement. Mark's tone remained firm throughout, making it clear he wouldn't tolerate any ambiguity or manipulation. In the back of his mind, Mark couldn't help but suspect that Lisa's desire for space was just a convenient excuse to pursue something, or someone else. Whatever the case, he was determined to come out of this stronger than he'd gone in. The next morning, Mark approached Lisa with a critical tone, setting the boundaries for how they would handle their impending separation. Lisa, we need to be clear about how we conduct ourselves during this period. If we're truly separating, it's important that neither of us brings anyone else into the house while the kids are present. It's about keeping some stability for them. Lisa, caught off guard, blinked and nodded. That makes sense, I suppose. Good, Mark continued. Also, we need to face the financial realities. Supporting two households is going to be expensive, and we'll both need to adjust to handling our own expenses independently. Joint accounts will need to be closed, and we'll need to work out child support arrangements. Lisa looked stunned. That's a lot to think about. Mark didn't soften his tone. Yes, it is. But these are the consequences of what you're asking for. I'll start looking for an apartment closer to my workplace. That way, the girls will have a bed when they stay over on my visitation nights. Usually, the non-custodial parent gets weekends and alternating holidays. Unless you want to work out something different, that's what I'll plan for. Lisa crossed her arms defensively. I didn't think you'd be so eager to leave the house. I'm not eager, Lisa, Mark replied sharply. But I refuse to pretend everything is fine when it's not. The sooner we start living separately, the sooner we'll know if this is the life we want. Besides, I'll still be as involved with the girls as possible, but you and your future partner will need to take on some of the responsibilities I've been managing. Responsibilities? Lisa asked, her tone dripping with skepticism. Yes, Mark said firmly. Things like helping the kids with schoolwork, managing transportation to extracurricular activities, and handling emergencies. And if you end up with someone who has kids of his own, I assume you'll be assisting with their needs too. This isn't just about you, Lisa. It's about creating a sustainable arrangement for everyone involved. Lisa frowned, visibly rattled by his pragmatic tone. This isn't how Rachel said it would go, she muttered under her breath. What was that? Mark asked, his voice sharp. Nothing, Lisa said quickly. Just this isn't unfolding the way I thought it would. Mark narrowed his eyes. Let me guess. Rachel assured you that I'd bend over backward to make this easy for you, didn't she? That I'd keep the family running smoothly while you explore your options? If that's what you were expecting, Lisa, you've seriously misjudged me. Lisa remained silent, the weight of Mark's words sinking in. Finally, she stood. I need some rest. We can pick this up tomorrow. Fine, Mark said, his tone curt. But I'll keep working on this list tonight. The more we figure out now, the smoother things will be. Lisa barely slept that night, her mind racing with doubts. Early the next morning, she woke to find Mark already gone from their bed. Oh my God, she muttered, peering into the guest room. There he was, fast asleep, surrounded by papers and his notepad. Returning to the kitchen, Lisa started breakfast. As the food cooked, she flipped through the pages of his notes. They were thorough to the point of intimidating. Every expense was listed: mortgage, utilities, insurance, child-related costs, even memberships like Amazon Prime and gym fees. He had also outlined his anticipated budget for living in an apartment and the amount of child support he'd need to pay to sustain her and the girls. She noticed his ideas for cutting costs, skipping his usual trips to Waffle House and Starbucks, which brought an amused smirk to her face. But what caught her off guard was the list of tasks he'd outlined for her to handle. Refueling the car, home maintenance, scheduling repairs, grocery shopping. It was a stark reminder of just how much Mark had been doing. Darn it, Lisa muttered under her breath. Why isn't he acting like he's supposed to? Why isn't he trying to win me back? Frustration bubbled over as she reached for her phone. Hello, Rachel, Lisa whispered. It's me. We need to talk quietly. Mark's asleep. Rachel's voice came through, sharp with curiosity. How did it go last night? Did he beg you to stay? Not even close, Lisa hissed. Instead of pleading with me to reconsider, he agreed to the divorce. Then he started listing all the things I'll have to handle on my own if I go through with it. He's planning to rent an apartment, and he expects us to act like we're already divorced during the separation. He's not even scared of losing me. Rachel's tone turned icy. He's bluffing, Lisa. Men like him always do. He's trying to manipulate you by acting indifferent, hoping you'll cave. Don't fall for it. Remember, you hold all the power, the kids, the house, and your future. He's just trying to intimidate you. I hope you're right, Lisa murmured. This isn't going the way I expected. Trust me, Rachel said with confidence. Soon enough, you'll have everything you want. Freedom with Robert and Mark still handling the hard stuff. Just stay firm. Lisa sighed. I'll try, but Mark is surprising me at every turn. I need to see what his next move is. As she hung up, Lisa turned to find Mark shuffling into the kitchen. Coffee? She asked nervously. Sure, Mark muttered, heading for the pot. But drinking it this late wasn't the smartest idea, he added, his voice casual yet pointed, leaving Lisa to stew in her thoughts. Lisa barely slept that night, tossing and turning as Mark's calm, methodical approach to their separation echoed in her mind. Early the next morning, she found him sitting at the kitchen table, pen in hand, scribbling on his notepad. The sight of his calm efficiency irritated her. Wasn't he supposed to be groveling, or at least showing some emotion? I hardly slept, Lisa said, her voice sharp as she entered the room. Why didn't you join me in bed? Mark glanced up, his face impassive. I went for a walk. I needed to clear my head. Lisa raised an eyebrow, her tone softening. What does that mean? Were you upset? He set down his pen, locking eyes with her. I wasn't upset. I was cautious. I saw you sleeping, undressed, and I won't lie, I still find you incredibly beautiful. But I couldn't trust myself. Trust yourself? Lisa asked, her curiosity piqued. Mark's tone was steady, but there was an edge of frustration. If I joined you, Lisa, it wouldn't have been about love or intimacy. It would have been about pity, about trying to numb the pain of this mess we're in. That's not how I want to feel. Lisa took a step closer, trying to soften his resolve. We're still married, Mark. Until the separation officially begins. I'm yours. Can't we act like husband and wife until then? Mark shook his head, his expression firm. No, Lisa. I made up my mind. The moment you said you were unhappy and wanted space, the separation began. I won't pretend we're fine when we're not. I want to see you happy, even if that happiness doesn't include me. But I'm not going to delude myself into thinking things are normal between us. Lisa bit her lip, sensing that Mark's resolve was stronger than she'd anticipated. She tried to reassure him. This doesn't mean we'll get divorced, Mark. I just need time to figure things out. Time to rediscover myself. Who knows? Maybe this separation will bring us closer together. Mark let out a heavy sigh, his doubt evident. That's a nice thought, Lisa. But words don't mean much right now. Actions will tell the real story. He pushed back his chair and stood. I'm taking the day off to sort out a few things. Billy will manage the cruise today. I need to handle financial arrangements and start preparing for the split. Oh, and don't be late for work. I'll take care of breakfast and get the girls to school. Lisa watched as Mark gathered his things and left. Her heart felt heavy, but her mind drifted elsewhere, to Robert, her charming colleague. At work, Lisa's thoughts were a jumbled mix of guilt and anticipation. When Robert stopped by her desk with his usual flirtatious smile, her nerves spiked. Hey, Lisa, he said smoothly. I was thinking maybe we could hang out sometime. There's this great jazz club I know. You love music, right? She hesitated but eventually nodded. Sure, Robert. That sounds nice. As he walked away, her mind wandered to their previous encounters, those stolen moments in the elevator that made her pulse quicken. She tried to shake the memories, but they lingered. When Lisa returned home that evening, the sight of Mark's meticulous organization on the kitchen table brought her back to reality. His notepad lay open, filled with even more lists. But something new caught her eye, a list titled Possible Women for Today. Her heart stopped as she scanned the columns. The first one, women who have expressed interest, included names that left her stunned. At the top of the list was her sister, Erica. Fuming, Lisa grabbed her phone and dialed Erica. "Hello, dear," Erica answered, her tone casual. "How dare you try to steal my husband?" Lisa snapped. Erica laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "Steal him? Slow down, Lisa. What are you even talking about?" Mark made a list of women who told him they'd be interested in dating him. "Your name is on it," Lisa accused. Erica sighed. "Look, I may have mentioned once, after a few too many drinks, that if Mark ever wised up and left you, I'd be interested. But that was hardly serious." "You've got some nerve," Lisa hissed. Erica's tone sharpened. "What's really going on here, Lisa? Trouble in paradise? Did Mark catch you with someone else? Or are you just being your usual selfish self?" "That's none of your business," Lisa snapped. "I only told Mark I needed space to figure things out." "Sure," Erica said sarcastically. "By figure things out, you mean you're looking for something or someone on the side. Who is it?" "Robert." Lisa's silence was enough of an answer. "Let me tell you something," Erica continued. "If you throw away Mark, a man who's been a great husband, father, and provider, you deserve everything you get. And don't think for a second that I won't pursue him once you're out of the picture." The call ended abruptly, leaving Lisa shaken. Later that evening, Mark walked into the house and noticed Lisa sitting at the table, the notepad in front of her. He saw the tension in her face and immediately guessed the topic of conversation. "Looks like you're wasting no time finding a replacement for me," Lisa said, her tone accusatory. "My own sister? How could you?" Mark raised an eyebrow. "I'm sorry. Weren't you just lecturing me yesterday about needing space to explore relationships? What's the problem?" Lisa's voice faltered. "I don't have a boyfriend. I want to figure out what I want." Mark's expression darkened. "And what about Robert Turner?" Lisa's eyes widened. "How do you know about that?" Mark smirked. "I ran into Sylvia, your boss's secretary. She has quite the mouth. According to her, you and Robert have been spending a lot of time together. Lunches, private chats. Is that who you're exploring with?" Lisa stammered. "Robert is just a friend. He's married, Mark." "Not according to his Facebook page," Mark replied, pulling out his phone. "Married to Cynthia. 2 kids. Seems like a pretty happy family. But hey, maybe you're okay with breaking up his marriage since you're already breaking up ours." Lisa sat in stunned silence, unsure how to respond. Mark leaned forward, his voice firm. "Just remember, Lisa, you wanted the separation. But don't think for a second that I'll let you dictate the terms while I sit on the sidelines." As Mark walked away, Lisa realized she was losing control of the situation faster than she'd anticipated. Lisa clenched her fists, her temper simmering as she tried to regain control of the spiraling situation. "You think you're clever with your lists and plans, but I can make a list too, Mark," she snapped, deflecting from the accusations that had left her cornered. Mark didn't bite. Instead, he shifted topics with a matter-of-fact tone. "By the way, Lisa, there's something practical we need to discuss. If we decide to stay married after the separation, we'll need to exchange medical reports, just to ensure we're both healthy and free of any, let's say, surprises." Lisa's face twisted in disgust. "Ugh, that's gross. You're overthinking this." "Am I?" Mark asked, his calm demeanor unwavering. "You mentioned exploring new relationships. If that's the case, precautions are just common sense. I'd want us both to feel safe." Lisa scoffed. "I wasn't even planning to date anyone. It's only 90 days. But if I did, you'd want to know everything about who I was with and who they've been with, wouldn't you?" Mark avoided her gaze, choosing instead to scribble a few notes in his notepad. "Okay, Lisa, here's what I've done today to make things easier for the separation. First, I started the process of sorting out our financial accounts. That way, you'll have easy access to your funds. Next week, I'll deal with the utilities, mortgage, and other household details." Lisa stared at him, her anger brewing, but Mark continued undeterred. "Oh, and I have some news. I found a potential apartment near my workplace. It's a 2-bedroom unit at the Royal Arms. Jenny, my secretary, who also works there part-time, helped me find it. She mentioned I could get a significant discount if I worked as an apartment maintenance specialist for a few hours a week. That would mean more money for you and the girls." Lisa's eyes narrowed. "You haven't signed a lease yet, have you?" No, not yet, Mark replied. Jenny said they could make an exception for a shorter lease since the unit's currently vacant. She also, well, let's just say she surprised me. Apparently, she finds me attractive. She even suggested quitting her job to avoid any workplace conflicts if we started dating. Lisa stiffened, her anger flaring. Jenny? That gold digger is already circling? Mark raised an eyebrow. Relax, Lisa. I made it clear that wasn't going to happen. I've kept things professional. Lisa bit back her retort. She knew that expressing her fury would only play into Mark's hands. Mark's tone softened slightly as he added, on another note, I'd like to share some good news. A few months ago, I booked a 10-day trip to Hawaii for our 20th anniversary. It was meant to be a surprise. Lisa's mood shifted instantly. Hawaii? Mark, you know how much I've always wanted to go there. That's amazing. Mark's face remained neutral. Unfortunately, we won't be going together. When you brought up divorce, I realized we might not even make it to our anniversary. I tried canceling the trip, but the refund policy only allowed for a partial return. So, I had the tickets reissued for you and a guest of your choosing. Lisa's enthusiasm vanished. But I wanted to go with you. Mark shook his head, his voice firm. You made it clear you wanted space, Lisa. I thought this trip might help you start your new journey. Maybe take someone you're interested in. Desperation crept into Lisa's voice. Mark, I've been thinking, maybe I don't want a divorce. Maybe we could postpone the separation. I was wrong to say I was unhappy. Mark's eyes met hers, filled with a mix of sadness and resolve. Lisa, I've given this a lot of thought. Even if you called off the divorce now, I can't unhear what you said. I can't forget how easily you considered leaving. This isn't something we can pretend away. Without waiting for a response, Mark turned and walked upstairs to the guest room, leaving Lisa alone with her thoughts. Frustrated and confused, Lisa called Miranda. Hello? Miranda, it's me. Everything's falling apart. What happened now? Miranda asked, her tone exasperated. Lisa sighed. Mark found an apartment, and his secretary is already making moves on him. Even my sister wants to date him. And then he told me about these Hawaii tickets he booked for our anniversary, but he's not going with me. He said I should take someone else? Miranda laughed dryly. Lisa, don't be naive. This Hawaii nonsense is just another one of Mark's schemes to make you feel guilty. He's trying to manipulate you into calling off the divorce. Don't fall for it. Lisa hesitated. You think so? Of course, Miranda declared. Look at the bigger picture. You're a beautiful woman. You'll have plenty of options. Men like Mark thrive on guilt trips. Don't let him win. Lisa took a deep breath. You're right. You're just playing games. Exactly, Miranda replied. Focus on yourself. Mark will regret underestimating you. Later that evening, Mark came downstairs with a small suitcase. Lisa sneered. What's this? Trying to make it look like you're already moving out? Dramatic, don't you think? Mark remained calm. I'm just taking a few things to the apartment early. The unit's empty, and I don't want to overwhelm the girls when I leave for good. Lisa's face darkened. You really think you've outsmarted me with this Hawaii stunt, don't you? I know you fabricated that whole story just to guilt me. Mark sighed. If you don't believe me, call Lois Simpson at Flytrite Travel. She'll confirm everything. Here, I'll dial her for you. Lisa scoffed as Mark put the call on speaker. Hello? It's Mark Sinclair. My wife has some questions about the Hawaii trip I booked. Lois's voice was chipper. Of course, Mark. Mrs. Sinclair. How can I help? Lisa asked, her tone icy. When did my husband arrange this trip? Lois checked her records. He finalized the booking 2 months ago, with payment made shortly after. Yesterday, he called to cancel, but we could only offer a partial refund. He then asked to reassign the tickets for a different guest. Lisa's face flushed. She muttered a thank you and ended the call. Mark's gaze was steady as he spoke. You keep trying to twist this into something it's not. But the facts don't change. Maybe it's time you stopped listening to Miranda and started thinking for yourself. Lisa glared at him, but the weight of his words lingered as he walked away. Lisa paced the living room, her emotions a tangled mix of anger, guilt, and regret. Mark's steady resolve was pushing her to a breaking point, but she wasn't ready to concede, especially with Miranda fueling her defiance. Do you think Mom and Dad will watch the girls while we're away? Lisa asked, grasping at straws to shift the conversation. Mark raised an eyebrow, unimpressed by her sudden change in topic. I'll call them now and ask. He pulled out his phone, dialing without waiting for her approval. Wait, Mark, Lisa started, but the call was already connecting. Her mother answered, cheerful as ever. Hello, Jeff. How are the girls? We've been meaning to call. Are you all set for your trip? Lisa interjecta hesitantly. It's me. We're on speakerphone. Oh, let me get your dad. Her mother replied, her voice bright. Moments later, Harold's voice came on the line. What's going on, you two? Mark cleared his throat. They know now, Lisa. No need to keep it a secret anymore. Know what? Harold asked, his tone instantly more serious. About the Hawaii trip, Mark replied smoothly. I told them we wouldn't be going together. Her parents' disappointment was palpable. Son, we were looking forward to having the girls. Why can't you go? Is it a health issue? No, Dad, Lisa said quickly, trying to regain control of the conversation. We just had some issues we're working through. What kind of issues? Her mother pressed. Darlene, is everything okay? Lisa hesitated, but Mark didn't. We're separating, and this trip didn't seem appropriate anymore. Her parents' shocked silence was broken by her father's blunt question. Lisa, do you have a boyfriend on the side? No. Duh. That's ridiculous. Lisa snapped, her voice defensive. Mark stayed quiet, watching as Harold's disappointment deepened. We raised you better than this, Lisa. If you think we'll welcome some new man into our lives after what you're doing to Mark, you're sorely mistaken. Her mother began to cry softly, her sobs filling the speaker. Jeff, you'll still let us see the girls, won't you? Of course, Mark said calmly, his tone gentle despite the tension. You're still their grandparents, no matter what happens between Lisa and me. Lisa couldn't take it anymore. Enough. There's no need for all this drama. I've changed my mind. I don't want a divorce. Mark and I will work things out. Mark's expression darkened, his patience wearing thin. Lisa, you can't just flip a switch and undo everything. You declared you wanted a divorce without consulting me. Now, because things aren't going your way, you want to backpedal? It doesn't work like that. Lisa's desperation grew. Mark, please. I made a mistake. I was wrong to say I was unhappy. Can't we just forget this whole mess? Mark sighed deeply, grabbing his suitcase. You admitted to being unhappy, Lisa. You were ready to end our marriage and pursue other men. Even if you change your mind now, I can't erase what you said, or the fact that you were willing to throw us away. Lisa stepped toward him, her voice trembling. I'll fix it. I'll do whatever it takes. Just don't go. Mark shook his head. I'm not staying here tonight. I'll take a sleeping bag to the apartment and spend the night there. You need to pull yourself together for the girls. Lisa's tears spilled over. Mark, don't do this. Please. His voice was calm, but firm. You wanted space, Lisa. Now you've got it. Without another word, he walked out the door, leaving Lisa standing alone. Lisa immediately called Miranda. Hello? Miranda. He's leaving. He's actually leaving. Calm down, Miranda replied sharply. What happened? Lisa relayed the entire conversation, her voice frantic. Even my parents are turning against me. They think I've done something wrong. Mark won't even give me a chance to fix things. Miranda's tone was dismissive. Lisa, he's bluffing. He's trying to make you feel guilty. Nothing more. You just need to stand your ground. He'll crack. Lisa hesitated. But he's already talking to lawyers. He said his cousin Sally is ready to draft the papers. Miranda snorted. Good luck to him. Divorces aren't finalized overnight. You got time to figure this out. Focus on you. Remember, Mark wouldn't even know what to do without you. At the apartment, Mark unrolled his sleeping bag and sat in silence. His resolve was strong, but the weight of what was happening began to sink in. He loved Lisa, but her betrayal had shattered the trust between them. He wasn't sure if their marriage could survive, nor if he even wanted it to anymore. As he drifted off to sleep, he made a mental note to call Sally in the morning. Lisa seethed with frustration as Mark's ultimatum hung over her like a dark cloud. She couldn't believe the level of control he now wielded, control she had inadvertently handed him with her own reckless actions. I won't sign them, She snapped the next morning when Mark came by the house to pick up more belongings. Mark's gaze remained calm, but his tone was resolute. That doesn't matter, Lisa. All Sally needs to do is ensure you're officially served. She's already considering doing it at your workplace, perhaps even in front of Robert. Maybe then your co-workers will see the real Lisa. Lisa's face flushed with anger. You wouldn't dare. Don't push me, Mark warned. I could also involve Robert's wife. Believe me, that alone would suffice for payback. Lisa's defiance began to crack. Why are you being so harsh? I love you, Mark. You love me. Isn't there anything I can do to make this right? Tears welled up in her eyes as she pleaded, her voice trembling. You said divorce would be painful for both of us. Don't you want to avoid that pain? I promise. No, I swear, I'll never bring up divorce again. Just stay and let's work this out. Mark's silence cut deeper than words. He finally spoke, his voice low and measured. I'll tell you what. I'm taking my suitcase to the apartment today, but I'll give you one chance to convince me otherwise. Write down a few things. If your responses meet my expectations, I'll consider calling off, or at least delaying, the divorce. I'll be back at 7 tonight. Lisa clung to his words like a lifeline. Yes, thank you. What do I need to write? Mark's eyes hardened. First, an apology for starting this mess and for the pain you've caused me. Not just an apology, Lisa. I want you to beg for my forgiveness. Second, you need to contact Robert and end whatever this is. Warn him that if he continues contacting you, I'll have no problem involving his wife or taking legal action against him and your company. Third, write down every reason why I should even consider staying married to you. Lastly, you'll call Miranda and tell her you're done with her. Forever. This is non-negotiable. If I ever hear about her influence in our lives again, I'm gone for good. Lisa nodded quickly, desperate to show she was willing to comply. I'll do it all. I'll be ready by 7. Mark grabbed his suitcase and left without another word. Lisa sat at the kitchen table, staring at her notepad. The first task, an apology, felt like swallowing broken glass. She hated to admit fault, but she knew there was no other way. The call to Miranda loomed even larger. Listening to you was my worst mistake, Lisa rehearsed aloud, her voice trembling. Because of you, I nearly lost everything that matters to me. Don't contact me ever again. If we cross paths in public, steer clear or face the consequences. Despite her anger, saying the words aloud brought an unexpected sense of relief. Miranda's influence had driven her down a path of selfishness and chaos, and cutting ties felt freeing. Next came Robert. When she called, his voice was smooth and charming, but Lisa cut him off before he could speak. This needs to end, she said firmly. Don't call me, don't text me, don't even think about me. If you persist, Mark will involve your wife, and I'll let him. Do you understand? Robert tried to protest, but Lisa hung up, her anger bubbling into resolve. The easiest task turned out to be listing reasons why Mark should stay. As Lisa reflected on their life together, she realized how much she had taken for granted. His unwavering support, his kindness, his loyalty. She poured her heart into the list, acknowledging her mistakes and vowing to never repeat them. By the time 7 p.m. arrived, Lisa felt a strange mixture of hope and fear. When Mark walked through the door, his expression was unreadable. Here, Lisa said, handing him the papers. I hope you'll reconsider. Mark sat down and read through her responses in silence. Tears welled up in his eyes as he finished the list, but his face remained stoic. Lisa, mistaking his emotion for a sign of reconciliation, moved to embrace him, but Mark held up a hand. Stay seated. Her heart sank. Your effort is commendable, he said quietly, but I'm not sure you understand the depth of the pain you've caused me. This, he held up the list. This doesn't erase the betrayal. I'm sorry, Lisa, but I think I need to proceed with the divorce. Lisa collapsed to the floor, her sobs uncontrollable. I've ruined everything, she wailed. I've destroyed my family. I'm the worst person alive. Mark knelt beside her, his voice soft but firm. Now you understand how I felt. As Lisa cried, Mark stood and walked toward the door. He paused, glancing back at her. During our separation, are we allowed to see other people? Lisa struggled to compose herself, her tears making it hard to speak. If dating others is permitted, Mark hesitated. Would you like to have dinner and see a movie with me on Friday night? Lisa's head snapped up, her eyes wide with disbelief. You're asking me out on a date? Mark nodded. Our old relationship is broken, Lisa, but maybe we can try to start fresh. Hope surged through her as she scrambled to her feet. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. For the first time in weeks, Lisa saw a faint smile cross Mark's face.